Hi, my name is Efe, and today I'll be reviewing your manga pages and then offering my feedback. If you would like to have your manga, illustrations, or scripts reviewed by us, then go to themangadiet.com and fill out this short critiques form. By clicking yes on this option, you can even be featured in a video like this. Now, without further ado, let's review some manga.
So the first manga that we're going to look at today is Robo by Everett Dubois. Now this was submitted to us using the critiques forum on our website, and not many things I had to say about this manga. But first, before that, if you're interested in checking out their work, this is their Instagram, kdrb.insta, or you can also go to katarobo.com if you want to check out the manga in its entirety. So overall, it was a pretty decent piece. The main thing that I wanted them to work on, that I think would be the biggest improvement for them in terms of their manga, is directing the gaze of the viewer. So when you are planning out your compositions for your panels, you have to decide, before you even start the manga in general, whether you're right to left or left to right, okay? Manga is typically in right to left fashion, right? It starts from the right, you read to the left. But some traditional, more American style manga, they start from left to right. That's the same with comics and graphic novels. So if you choose to make your comic that way, you still have to think from the reader's point of view, okay? If the reader starts here, right, in a left to right reading direction manga, right? Ideally, you want to make sure that their gaze goes like this as they go through the page, okay? This is the ideal way that panels are supposed to be read, like this. Now, the problem is, with this page specifically, is that you start here, right? The first thing you're going to touch as the reader is this, right? Because this is the first thing that starts in the top left corner. You start from the left, end up here. Next, you go this way, because it's just right next to this, correct? Now you have options once you get here. Am I going to go this way because these elements connect right here? Or am I going to go down because these elements connect right here? The problem with this is that you, as the manga artist, you do not want to give the reader options for what they look at with their eyes. You want to draw the path for them. So if they have the option to go right or down, this means that once they get to this dialogue right here, right, they're going to go like, okay, maybe I'll go down. Okay, what's below this? This is. Oh, what's below this? This. What's below this? This. Right? And this is not how the manga is supposed to be read. Remember how I said that it's supposed to look like this? Right? If I end up down here because of the placement of elements, that means I'm reading it in the pattern it's not supposed to be read in, and I will not see everything. Then I have to go like, oh wait, let me jump up to this now. And that is not how you want your manga to be read. You want it to be read as simply as possible, as easily as possible, and in order, okay? So ideally, what I think they were going for with this is they wanted people to be like this, then this, then this, right? But the way that the elements are placed, you go this way, you have an option here, you have an option here, and then let's say you go this route, okay? Because it's all about routes at this point, right? Then you go here, and then you go down like this. Where am I gonna go now? Maybe like this, maybe this way. Oh, where now? This. Oh, then it goes like this. Oh, you know what I mean? Like, this is not ideal. That is the thing that I told them is the biggest thing that I think they should improve upon, is just placing their elements in the way that it guides the reader's eyes in the direction they want it to go. Here's another one of their pages, for example. Like I said, there are left to right reading manga, so we start in this corner, right? The first thing we're going to see if we're reading left to right is this, okay? What's next? Are we going to go into this panel? Yes, we are. Okay, what's after this? Down. Then we're on this. Oh, am I going to go here or here? And when I put the circle, that just means that there's an option now of which way I'm going to go. Again, you don't want to give the reader options. They have to go through a simple, coherent, straightforward route to get from the start of the page to the end of the page in one go. Okay, that's the most optimal way you get through like a trail, right? Let's say that you're in a maze. You want to find the way, the simplest path from the start to the end. That is what the reader is looking at, okay? Remember, like, back in the day, and if you don't know this, then that means you're kind of young. But there was, back in the day, people used to make like eye tracker videos on YouTube where you could see where their eyes were looking at, right? And if you could see the eye tracker of the reader while they are reading your manga, you would see that they're jumping around a lot. And if that's happening, that is not good. Your elements are supposed to be placed in a way that it guides the reader through absolutely everything on the page so that they can see everything without jumping around, okay? And I have some examples of that later, but I just want to show you exactly what I mean when I say, like, there are too many paths for the reader to choose from. Because now when they get here, right? Oh, maybe they'll go down, or maybe they'll go this way, because this is laying literally right on top of this element here, right? Oh, so now that I'm on here, maybe I'll just go down. Oh, I'll go that way. Oh, where next? Maybe this, maybe this. Ooh, where am I gonna go now? Oh, maybe this, maybe down. Like, too many maybes for the reader. And as someone who's read hundreds, literally hundreds of manga, reviewed so many at this point, right? This is very, very noticeable when you have read multiple different stories before. And you can see that very clearly when I show you these examples. So here's an example from Ranma 1/2, right? This is what it looks like when you guide the reader's eyes in the direction you want them to go. It ends up looking like an S overall. Sometimes the shape is a little bit different. There's S compositions, Z compositions, C compositions. I will have a little like TikTok short thing that explains these a lot better in the future, or maybe even just a YouTube video. But so look out for that. But it ends up looking like this because if in manga it's traditionally read from right to left, right? That's what I said, right? So what you want to do is make it so that all the elements on the right lead you to the left and then back to the right in a zigzaggy formation. That's why it kind of ends up looking like this S here that I wrote, right? So you start here, ideally, right? You can start up here or down here. Either way, you're starting on this side. Then you're like, oh, he's swinging his sword this way. Now your gaze is going to the left. Whoa! Look how the sound effect is now placed here to guide your eyes into her right here, Akane, right? Now Akane's like, whoa! And on the side here, oh, look at that, another sound effect. So that your eyes go to the sound effect next, goes to the end of the panel next. And then, look, more sound effects here. Because now that you're on this spot, you go to the sound effects, you follow this line, Ron was rolling into Akane to the end of the panel. It looks crazy with all the writing on it, but if I remove all the writing, besides like the original S that I wrote on it, you can see very clearly how it takes you through the entire page. You know that your manga page has good composition if the reader naturally goes through it and sees every single element that you have. From this composition alone, you were able to see the clothes, all the text, all the SFX, all the effects, the the literal effects, all the characters, all their expressions in one straight line. Now, a disclaimer though, you should not do this on every single page. Like every single page does not need the same exact composition because that just gets boring. But this is something that you want to keep in mind when you are planning out your compositions for your pages. Another example from Evangelion, right? Look at how they use the text to help guide your eyes, okay? It doesn't always have to just be what you drew that you use to guide the eyes, right? Like as you saw in the previous one, the sword helped with us going from right to left. But sometimes, more commonly actually, it's the text that they place on the right and on the left. See, but if manga is read from right to left, right? Like, aren't you supposed to read like this? Like, aren't we supposed to go through it like this, right? Yes, but when they overlap, for example, here, right? When they put text that overlaps, it is very clear that they're trying to get you to move in that zigzag formation, which gets you to see the entire panel. Look at how it starts from Shinji here, right? She says Shinji, moves through her face to the next text bubble. Then you move through this to the next text bubble. It's so simple, but it's one of those things you don't realize until someone points it out. Because even me, when I started making manga originally, like even someone who has studied manga as much as I have, right? When I started making my own manga, I pretty much just forgot like most of the rules. And it was only until I started being more conscious when I was making my panels about, guiding the reader's eyes that I noticed, oh, all I have to do is place my elements in a certain formation to make it easy for the reader to understand. And this is exactly what that looks like. These are very like blatant examples where it shows you like clear as day that they're trying to get you to see the gaze, but this is what is most important for you if you feel like your panels are a little bit cluttered. Now this brings us to the next manga that I wanted to showcase, which actually doesn't have a cover. Now if you have a manga that you made and you post it online without a cover, no one is going to read it. This is a separate point, but I just wanted to let you know that make sure that you make a cover illustration every time you upload. But if you still found this manga even though it didn't have a cover, but that's because I just chose it at random. You know, people don't often choose their manga at random. When you're at Barnes and Nobles, when you're at these manga stores, what else? Dang, I just blanked. But when you're choosing your manga when you're going to buy it, right? You're not like, I'm gonna just close my eyes and pick one. No, you pick it because of the cover. So if you don't have a cover, people are not going to pick it. Okay, so put a cover. Before I show you, if you want to check out this person that I'm going to showcase, this is their Twitter, Yota Blaze. They didn't have an Instagram. I couldn't find one, but I actually found their manga originally off of Pixiv, I believe. It just popped up randomly, and I was like, ooh, this plays into what I wanted to talk about in the video. So here's the first page from their manga that I wanted to go over. The thing that I think would improve your manga if it looks like this, right, is just simplifying, okay? There are a lot of elements on screen here. As you can see, there's text down here, the effects, the characters, the panels overlap. Some of them are in the background, pop out 3D panels. Like, there's a lot going on here, but you don't have to put it all on one page, okay? It might sound simple, right? But as I mentioned with the previous work, there are a lot of things you don't notice until you're actually conscious of them. The main problem with why this is bad for the readers when you put too many elements on one page is because it just is overwhelming. Like, you don't have to overthink it too much. When you put too many elements, it makes it hard for the reader to understand what it is you want to show them. Okay? A rule of thumb with manga is that you make the things bigger that are more important and the things smaller that are less important, right? But if you make your dialogue small, we think it's not important, but this is dialogue. Dialogue is supposed to be read. We're supposed to be able to see it, right? So you can't make the dialogue small. You are allowed to put lots of elements on one page. The only way to do that, though, is by simplifying the panels. Look at the bounding box of the page. It's supposed to essentially look like a piece of paper, right? I can't draw the straight lines right now because I'm freaking recording, but this is what a page would look like, essentially. Imagine these red lines here. Everything that goes outside is a bleed, okay? Everything that goes outside these red lines is supposed to be a bleed, meaning that when there are two pages next to each other, this would bleed onto the next page. All of this would, which is not what you want. If everything fit within these, look, I'm making them dark now. If you made everything fit within these dark lines here, it would look so much better. Simplify your panel choice to avoid clutter. Here's another page from their manga, right? This is a lot better than the previous one, but it still lacks because of the way that they chose their panels, okay? This panel right here completely breaks up the flow of the entire body of work, okay? This right here are the page lines, okay? If everything fit within this red box here, it would be smooth, okay? But they put too many things on the screen. We've got small text that you can't even read from this distance, right? You can't even see what this says. You might be able to if you zoom in. If I zoom in for you, like, you can read it now. But readers don't want to do that. We want to be able to see everything from this distance. I'm telling you all of this from the perspective of the reader because they are the ones who are going to give your work any attention, any popularity. They are the ones who are going to spread it through word of mouth. When you see comments on your stuff, that's what people are going to look at from the people that read the work, okay? So it's not even about you. It's not about, oh, I just want to make sure I put all this in here. Think about the reader. The reader wants to get from point A to B as easily as possible, okay? So now I'm going to show you some examples of how you can put lots of elements on the screen without making it feel cluttered. Here's an example from Komi Can't Communicate. There is a lot of text here, right? But what you notice is that all of the panels are exactly the same. When the panels are the same, right? Because when we're reading, we're looking for patterns, right? That's how reading works. Not even just manga, talking about reading words now. You look for patterns. That's how you read faster. The more patterns you recognize when you're reading, life hack, the more patterns you recognize, the faster you read. So if all of these are the same exact pattern, right? You get through the page quickly because you know where to go next, okay? They put a lot of text on this, like you see, text, right? But because it all follows the same exact pattern with the character in the middle, you can still see the character in every single panel, right? And then the text and the sound effects are outside of where the character is. The reader still knows what's going on without feeling cluttered because it's the same exact pattern. The P doesn't actually stand for pattern, it stands for paneling, because I think that this was a good example of what good paneling should look like. But patterns, it's all about patterns when someone is reading manga or reading in general. So if you want to put lots of elements on the screen, specifically dialogue, you can do that as long as you choose panels that are in a good, easy to read pattern. Here's another example of this from Hajime no Ippo, okay? Lots of text on the screen here, and you can see how much text and how much is on screen when you zoom out, right? You can see how many white bubbles you see. But why does it still look coherent? That's because, as you can see, everything fits in one overall box. Obviously, the lines are not straight, whatever, but every element we want to see, every element you want the reader to see, all the characters, all the text, all the sound effects, fit inside one overall box. And it's now cut up into smaller boxes, as you can see here, as you can see here. It's cut up into smaller boxes within the overall, because the overall shape of this page is a rectangle, right? We know what rectangles are. Everyone can spot a rectangle, right? But when you look at this page, without my annotations, this has no overall shape. That is a problem. Another reason why you want to make sure that the panel shapes are as simple as possible if you are going to include a lot of elements is so that you can give it room to breathe. Notice how we still had enough room for 2 characters. Look how small this panel is. We still had enough space for 2 characters, 2 pages of text, a background, and background elements like bats, right? All of that can fit in one panel if you use a simple shape. Now, you don't have to always use simple shapes, right? Like as we saw with the Komi Can't Communicate example, right? This is a shape that you might not have ever seen before, right? But because they use the exact same one each time, the pattern is easy to follow. Do you understand? So if you do decide to use multiple elements in one page, just choose panels that are very simple so that you can give your elements room to breathe. Now, the third and final example is Little Monster Story and Art by Neo, right? If you want to check out this work yourself, this is their Instagram, Neo Manga Art, or you can just check them out on Manga Plus Creators. I believe that's where I found their manga to begin with, but if you want to support them directly, this is their Instagram, Neo Manga Art. Now, with this manga, I had basically nothing to say about it, okay? And the reason why I included this in this actually is because I wanted to show you that even though a manga might be damn near flawless, right? There are still things that everyone can do to improve. Once I explain this, you will understand what I mean. Now, this manga, I thought the illustration was cool. I thought the story was good. I like the art. Overall, I give it this manga probably like an 8.5 out of 10. It's a one-shot. I definitely recommend you check it out for yourself. It will be linked in the description. But the thing that it needs to improve upon, right, that would give it the next boost to the next level is the balance between whites and blacks, okay? When you look at this page, right, you're like, oh, it's a nice little manga page, right? But what you might not have paid attention to is how much white we see on the page compared to the blacks, compared to the tones, okay? The reason why we finish our manga, right, why there's a finishing process in manga where you go and put tones in, is because it gives it an overall balance, right? When you're shading an illustration, for example, right, you don't only just do the lightest color and the darkest color. You do the colors in between to give it a gradient like effect, right? So that the balance is more coherent, right? But that is what is missing from this piece. And I think with that, we'll take it to the next level. The reason that I think I noticed this is not just because I read manga and draw it all day. It's because it was always done on the clothes. So notice how in this page here, the clothes are all white. All of the clothes are white. The faces are white. The background is mostly white. Okay? This might look decent to you if you have not finished manga before. Finished in the sense of added finishing touches such as appropriate screen tones, right? When you look at professional manga, you see a better balance of blacks and whites. You actually don't even see whites to this extent, which I will show you in a little bit. Here's another example from their manga, right? Lots of white here. If you zoom out, it's even more noticeable just how much white there is compared to the other colors. Okay, there's mostly in this panel right here, right? But what I wanted to show you is what it would look like if it had more appropriate tone values. So here's an example of what it would look like if they added more tones to the clothing, for example, and some of the shadows. Okay, as you can see when you zoom out, there's a lot more of an overall balance to the page. Now you might be thinking, FA, but what if that's just their style, right? Valid point. But what I will tell you is I have not read a single manga, not one, that is professionally serialized in any magazine, that is for sale, that has a black to white ratio that is like this. Okay? They're all toned, they're all finished. And the reason why is because if you remove this, right? Because this is what the original manga looks like, right? It kind of looks strange now that I showed you it with tone, right? But when you look at it like this, it looks flat. It's not flat, you know, I'm not hating. I'm not saying this to, hurt anyone's feelings. But I'm telling you is that you can take your work to the next level, okay? Even if you think, oh, this is amazing, this is a great work. I agree. But there is always another level. And the next level for this person in particular, Neo, if you're watching, is finishing pages. And we know you're capable of doing it because this is a good example of what balanced black to white ratio looks like. As you can see, we have 3 different values here. We've got the whites here, right? Look at the white on her. Look at the grays here. Look at the blacks here. And there's enough of each. Look at how much white is here. Look at how much gray, 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 black, 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 black. It's even. This is why this looks finished, but this looks empty. Do you understand? Here's an example from the Golden Sheep, right? As you can see, we have a wide range of values here. We've got whites here, light grays, darkest grays, black. You see, like, this looks finished. This is a serialized manga. This is the difference. Here is an example from Blue Flag. Okay? Look at the range of values we have here. Now you might think at a glance, isn't this panel kind of white though? This one's kind of white too, right? But when you get a little closer, you can see the tone values. You can see that the shading was done not with hatching. We didn't just do a little light hatching, because that's what this person does a lot, is they do a lot of light hatching. They used tones. They use tones to build that value, okay? Even when you zoom out, you can see the grays. You can still see the grays here. Oh, let me change the color. You can still see the grays here. You can still see them. Still see it. You still see it. Look at the value they chose for the hair. So even if you have white clothes, you can make the range of values better on the page by adding tone to them instead of light hatching. as a bonus, another way that you can improve the black to white balance is just by adding sound effects, right? So if you don't like, the tone style that I added to it, right, you can just add sound effects. If you did all of it together, it would end up looking like this, right? Now, which do you think looks more polished? Which looks more like a professional manga? This or this? Okay. All I did was add 2 little sound effects, right? Put some tone for shading instead of light hatching, and it looks more polished this way. Okay. So think about the black to white balance if you want to take your manga from, semi-professional to a professional level. Because for this work specifically, Neo, if you're watching this video, the only difference I see between your work and a professional, like work that someone would pay money for, is the balance between blacks and whites. Now, if you would like your manga to be reviewed by us and be featured in a video like this in the future, all you have to do is go to themangadiet.com, hit submit my work, and then fill out this short critiques form. This is what critiques look like when they're sent to you. And then if you want to be featured in a video, all you have to do is hit yes, and then add your social media, and then you will be in the video. Now, besides that, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, make sure you like this video, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment with what you thought. We're still making tweaks to this to make sure that we can give you guys the best advice on manga possible. But we need your help figuring out what you guys would enjoy the most. So leave comments with that below. And other than that, we'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.